Greetings from LA, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And right now where I am, it is Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. We're in the late morning hours where I am, and I understand that a few hours ago, the Criterion Collection made its announcement on its website with respect to its planned releases for January 2025. And my goodness, we're already in discussions about what is going to be planned to be released for 2025. So my goodness, time is indeed going by very quickly. And so time is of the essence, or seize the day, as the sayings go, and perhaps in an effort or an endeavor to perhaps seize such day, let me, my dear friends, take this opportunity to share with you my initial thoughts and comments and impressions with respect to these planned releases for January 2025 from the Criterion Collection. And before I continue, let me say that these are my initial thoughts and comments, and I'm still processing a lot of this information. But of course, when it comes time to being able to go to the store and purchase these items and being able to rewatch or watch the films in the context of these new Criterion releases in January of next year, then perhaps, if it's okay with you, my dear friends, let us talk about our thoughts and comments about the films and the Criterion release and the supplements, etc. But for now, let us share with each other our initial thoughts and comments with the understanding that this might change over time. And let me also then, in that spirit, take this opportunity to invite you, to welcome you, my dear friends, to comment and let me know your own feelings and thoughts and impressions about this collection of releases that are scheduled for January 2025. The comment section is open below, so please feel free to let me know your thoughts and comments. But with that, let me now go to the site, and it looks like scheduled for release in January, on January 7th, 2025. We have a series of titles, or series of films, two films in fact, which are going to be scheduled for release in a new 4K plus Blu-ray format. Now, this is a set of films, or these two films already exist in the Criterion Collection physical media catalog, for instance, in a Blu-ray set. And the Blu-ray set looks to be having the same contours and the same maybe cover art designs. We shall see, of course, but looking to be having the same cover art designs as the current the Blu-ray set seems to be the same or similar to what is going to be planned for release in January 2025. And the films are, there are two films. First is from 1961 and the second is from 1962. And they are both from the filmmaker Akira Kurosawa. And the name of the set is YOJIMBO, SANJURO, two samurai films by Akira Kurosawa. And this is planned for release in a 4K plus Blu-ray format edition of a set which, as I say, already exists in the Criterion Collection physical media catalog, and I have it right here. Just for your information, you have the outer shell, and then you can take out the two individual discs here, YOJIMBO and SANJURO. These are the Blu-rays. YOJIMBO is from 1961 and SANJURO is from 1962, and they are both directed by Akira Kurosawa, each starring Toshiro Mifune. And so, what to make of this news from Criterion? I must say that, first of all, let me say that these films are two films that mean a lot to me. I have a kind of direct attachment to them, and I think in particular YOJIMBO, the first of the two, in the sense that YOJIMBO was the first film I ever saw directed by Kurosawa, and many years ago on a VHS tape. And ever since that watch of YOJIMBO, my life changed in terms of my cinema journey and things beyond. And even now, I hold YOJIMBO in such high regard in my eyes that I watch it frequently. and I marvel at its action, its sort of Machiavellian movements, its tongue-in-cheek flavors, its bursts of sudden action that can veer into quite sinister and indeed quite graphic, violent territories. All the while giving us these great performances, headed, of course, by the legendary Toshiro Mifune. And I would also say that Toshiro Mifune's performances are overall legendary. And perhaps of his legendary films, his performance in Yojimbo, and indeed his performance in Sanjuro, those performances are among the most legendary of his legendary status. And so to have Yojimbo reemerge, this time what's described as being a 4K digital restoration, is very exciting news indeed. I should also point out that it says that 4K digital restoration presented in the aspect ratio of 2.39 to 1. And then we have the Blu-ray, which is restored high definition digital transfer, presented in aspect ratio of 2.35 to 1. So, but in any event, the ability to rewatch Yojimbo in the context of, say, a new release like this is very, very exciting news for me indeed, and it's making me want to watch Yojimbo and Sanjuro, in fact, as soon as I finish making this video. A word about Sanjuro as well. This is the follow-up to Yojimbo, and it's a kind of sequel of sorts, in the sense that there is some carryover in between the films. Although it could also be said that it is a different standalone adventure in the same universe or in the same world with the same main character, as it were. So in that sense, it's like a series of two films that have distinct and maybe individual stories in and of themselves, but there is a kind of crossover in terms of the character, the main character that appears. So oftentimes they're described as sequels. Sanjuro is described as a sequel to Yojimbo, but perhaps it might be equally an appropriate description to describe it as a type of continuation or another adventure of this main character. In that way, it opens up so many great possibilities as to what kind of stories to tell. And indeed, when one watches Yojimbo and one watches Sanjuro, they are back to back. They were made back to back. One followed the other in close succession, 1961 into 1962. And so there are a lot of similarities, but there are also so many really grand and poetic differences that really help to even further embellish the wonderful grace notes that Yojimbo has and Sanjuro has. And then speaking of Sanjuro, those grace notes, I think, include a kind of solemnity, a sense of a type of hierarchy. And there is a furtherance, or there is a maybe focus more on the escapades of, say, high classes and nobility classes, whereas Yojimbo, I think, was focusing on a story that was of a different strata of social class. So it in a way, it's an interesting way of maybe either expanding the world or maybe suggesting other parts of the sort of complex structure that our main character, who is portrayed with such brilliance by Toshiro Mifune, is able to weave and bob through in his this way of dexterity that is both witty and also intelligent, that is also very physically deadly when it needs to be. And Sanjuro has among its grace notes some of the great passages of Kurosawa's canon, including some of the most memorable and shocking images that one might find in any Kurosawa film. So it is a landmark film, and it is held in such high regard, and its effect and its influence can be felt even now to the present day in many respects, not just as a Kurosawa film, not just as a samurai film, but also as an action-adventure epic with brilliant performances at the heart. And I mentioned Toshiro Mifune. I should also mention the great Tatsuya Nakadai as well, in an interesting dynamic, both in Yojimbo on the one hand and Sanjuro on the other. So this is a brilliant set of films, and I, for one, am always excited and delighted and thrilled whenever I have the opportunity to rewatch these films. And so I will rewatch them again after I finish this video. And then when it comes time to look at the 4K releases in January, I look forward to that as well. I know the news of the 4K releases of the Kurosawa films. And of course, this year we have Seven Samurai. So I hope that this is part of an ongoing trend by Criterion and Toho and company to be able to release, North America stateside. I hope it's the possibility to release as many Kurosawa films in the 4K format as possible. I've never seen these films in the 4K restoration format, so this will be an opportunity for me to explore it. I have seen the films many times, but this will be an opportunity to watch them in the 4K restoration. I did have the opportunity to watch them in Japan. I wasn't able to avail myself of that so perfectly. So at the end of the day, I wasn't able to do that, which was one of my great regrets. But it's good that the Criterion Collection is able to permit me the opportunity to remedy such regret by making these available in January. So in any event, I look forward to watching these films with you, and they are great. They are really great. I've mentioned over the course of this YouTube channel just my great admiration for the works of Kurosawa, and Yojimbo and Sanjuro are definitely up there. So if you haven't seen these films yet, now's your opportunity. You can wait for the 4K, or you can maybe, if you have they might be on the Criterion channel, the streaming service. I'm not sure if they are, and you're interested, you can check them out in advance to see if you enjoy them. I hope you do. They're among my favorites of the Kurosawa canon, and I'm looking forward to this immensely. I cherish these films very much. So any opportunity to be able to watch them again, I am very grateful. So again, scheduled for release on January 7th, 2025 in the 4K Blu-ray format, re-release of this set, again, which is Yojimbo, Sanjuro, two samurai films by Akira Kurosawa. Next, scheduled for release January 14th, 2025 in a 4K plus Blu-ray release, or a Blu-ray disc set, or a DVD disc set. I forgot to say, I apologize. I should mention that the Yojimbo Sanjuro set is already available in a Blu-ray set. The site doesn't indicate the DVD releases, but it's available on the Blu-ray set, and it will be made available in the 4K plus Blu-ray in January. So that's the Yojimbo Sanjuro set. But now moving to January 14th, 2025, in a release which is scheduled for spine numbered 1245, and we have either a 4K plus Blu-ray release, or the single disc Blu-ray release, or a 2-disc DVD release. So the DVD format is still being made available even for new releases in the Criterion Collection, which is really great. And as I mentioned, for spy number 1245, for a film which is described as being from the year 1973, and the name of the filmmaker is Jean Eustache, and the name of the work in English is The Mother and the Whore. So, oh my goodness, this is huge news. This is really huge. The film, the films of John Eustache, and in particular this film, and please pardon me for my very poor French pronunciation. I hope you can forgive me. Maman et la Putaine. Or in English, The Mother and the Whore. This film is it's considered one of the landmarks of the French New Wave, and it's considered incredibly intimate and experimental in style, among its other quite remarkable traits. And it it has a sort of contextual spirit, from sort of late 1960s into the 1970s, from one of the filmmakers who is oftentimes maybe mentioned or maybe not mentioned, as the case may be. John Eustache, and I'll talk about one of the reasons why in a moment. But in any event, this film is highly, highly celebrated on the one hand, and yet it has been incredibly difficult to watch on home media release. At least that's been my experience. Which is one of the reasons I think, as I mentioned earlier, we don't often maybe hear in, say, recent um, film Blu-ray release circle conversations, for example, the name of John Eustache. And I think the main reason, at least my understanding, is that John Eustache films has been really difficult to find on home media release. I have been able to see The Mother and the Whore, the film, on a 2-tape VHS tape set, which I have. And also there was a Japanese DVD release of the film many, many years ago, which has since fallen out of print, which I was able to get as well. But that took a little bit of effort to be able to find that or track that down. But the point is that this film is, on the one hand, very highly celebrated, but also I think it's still waiting for yet new audiences to be able to discover and rediscover this film. And so part of that has been, or perhaps a main component has been, up to now, its relative inaccessibility, or perhaps to a certain degree, relative lack of accessibility to the film. Well, not anymore. Because I understand that the John Eustache films, for instance, The Mother and the Whore, did enjoy this restoration release. I think it was maybe a year or so ago. I was not able to watch that, but I think I remember hearing about that. And then now, of course, that news was prompted this discussion of when it will be released on home media. When will it happen? The announcement didn't quite seem to arrive until now. And so here we have The Mother and the Whore, the John Eustache film. This is, I think, for many people, a long time coming. This has been anticipated for many, many, many years. And I think I might have mentioned that back in the day, I think, when I was talking about what it would be, what films would be interesting to see in the Criterion collection. I might have mentioned somewhere, maybe, or as an offhand comment in one video, that it would be interesting to see more films by John Eustache, because they were so difficult to find, and I think that limited perhaps the ability for people to talk about them, and new generations and new audiences to be able to talk to them, because they were that difficult to track down. So at least for me anyway. Well, to be able to say that John Eustache films will re-enter the conversation, this is very interesting. It'll be really interesting to see how people respond and react to Eustache works, and in particular, The Mother and the Whore, which, as I say, has, I think, a lot of intensity and intimacy to it. It is very intense in parts, and so I have a or I admit that I'm still perhaps unable to fully, or not even fully, but even on a very elemental degree, I'm unable to say penetrate it fully, or to appreciate it fully, in the sense of my own lack of understanding. But hopefully this will be remedied, or this will be helped along by, among other things, the prospects of a great Criterion release in January 2025. So this, to me, is incredible news. This is huge, huge, huge news. So, if there is anything akin to, like falling on the floor in sort of shock and surprise, this would come very, very close to it. So I'm very excited, very, very excited for this. Now, I don't know about the 4K digital restoration, because, as I said, I haven't seen the film in the restoration. I have seen it in the videotape release back in the day, and also the Japanese DVD. I admit that perhaps compared to recent, say, restoration releases in 2023, 2024, depending on how high quality the restoration is, of course, there's those questions that will arise for any new release. But that being said, admittedly, maybe comparatively, the VHS release, for instance, might be considered to be somewhat of a maybe it might be not as pristine as current restoration releases would have us be wonderfully accustomed to. So if that's any indication, then I'm very much looking forward to the prospect and possibility of how good this may look and sound. So we shall see when the product arrives in January. But for me, this is huge news. Incredibly big news. And for people who might watch it for the first time or are willing to watch it for the first time, you may like it, you may love it, you may be lukewarm to it, you may despise it, you may hate it. I mean, it could be all across the board, so I can't really gauge that. But what I can say is, again, it'll be made available, and so it'll be part of the conversation. And not that it hasn't been up to now, because it has, but it will be part of the conversation for maybe people who have not yet been able to see it, to be able to see it for the first time, or for people who have seen it to be able to rediscover things. And I, for one, hopefully, or I can probably say with an almost absolute certainty that this will provide for me more room and opportunity for rediscovery of this very, very memorable work indeed. So I'm excited for this. Again, this is scheduled for release on January 14th, 2025 for spy number 1245. And this is the work by John Eustache, which is in English, The Mother and the Whore. Next, scheduled for release January 14th, 2025. And this is for a 4K plus Blu-ray release or a single disc Blu-ray release. And this is scheduled for release on spy number 1247 for a film described as being from the year 1986. And the name of the filmmaker is Richard Pryor. And the name of the film is JoJo Dancer, Your Life is Calling. And this is purported to be based on a new 4K digital restoration. Richard Pryor's JoJo Dancer, Your Life is Calling is coming to the Criterion Collection. I have not seen this film in ages. I have not seen this film in such a long time. I saw this on VHS tape, and it had on the back of the box, I think it had a picture, or it had a number of pictures, one of which was Richard Pryor on stage, I think with his hands raised across, if I remember correctly. So it's been a long time since I've seen this film, this Richard Pryor film, but in that way, therefore, I am looking forward to being able to revisit this. I don't know how I'll feel about this, because I saw this film when I was quite young, and so a lot of things went over my head. And so now thinking back on the film, and if my memory isn't playing tricks on me, then I can perhaps anticipate now in my old age, being many years after the fact since I saw it, and so with the benefit of, say, hindsight, or the benefit of having lived these years and now watching a film like JoJo Dancer, Your Life is Calling, I can anticipate perhaps having quite a reaction to it indeed. So this is very exciting. This is very exciting. I mean, I use this word exciting a lot, I suppose. I use it for the other releases, but I say that because I really believe that this is this is going to be something. Wow. I mean, I don't want to go into too much detail, but if you've seen the film, or if not, I think one of the things that can be true is you can look at this film on its own merits, and I think that's a really great way of looking at it. It's a very compelling story. It's a sort of life story on the one hand, but also can be seen, I think, in the context of the filmmaker being here Richard Pryor. And my goodness, with all the all that has to offer, and all that brings with it, this is going to be such an emotional, impactful, potentially so anyway, watch indeed, for anyone who's watching it for the first time, or perhaps revisiting it after many years like me, or perhaps those who know it more intimately and more with a lot of knowledge of its contours. In any event, I think this is incredibly yeah, this is going to be another big one. So I'm looking forward to this very much. Oh gosh, I'm now thinking back on it, because I haven't thought about this film in a while, but now I'm thinking back on it, and yeah, this is going to be again, that's one of the great things about the film journey, or the cinema journey, with films like JoJo Dancer, Life is Calling. This is a film that I think for me will potentially have a lot of emotional, impactful moments. Maybe from a subjective standpoint, again, considering sort of the lifespan of the characters, or the character that is on display here with Richard Pryor. And just also the idea too of looking back, in a manner speaking. I think this is really great indeed. Sorry about that. I just wanted to close the window because of some noise outside, so I apologize for that. But just returning to the Richard Pryor work, I don't have this on any physical media release now. As I said, I haven't seen this in quite a while. The last time I saw it was back in the VHS days. But according to this, it's a new 4K digital restoration with 2.0 surround DTS HD master audio soundtrack, and a number of supplements, including a new interview with filmmaker Robert Townsend, among other things, in the supplemental section. So this is really great. This is really great, and quite a lovely, nice surprise, and also the ability to examine and re-examine not just the performance and the great performance skills and the aura that is Richard Pryor, but also the filmmaker Richard Pryor. And so I am, oh gosh, let me use that word again. I'm very excited for this release, again, also on January 14th, 2025. So you have the Blu-ray, or you have the 4K plus Blu-ray, so your choice for spine number 1247 of this work, which is called JoJo Dancer, Your Life is Calling. Next, scheduled for release on January 21st, 2025. And this is for spine number 1246. And then we also have the option of the single disc Blu-ray release, or the 4K plus Blu-ray 2-disc release. And this is of a film which is described as being from the year 1990. The name of the filmmaker is Stephen Frears. And the name of the work is The Grifters. So 1990's The Grifters, Stephen Frears' The Grifters, starring, among others, Angelica Houston and Ned Benning and John Cusack. And oh, this is really something. This is another film that I saw a lot on VHS tape, VHS rental. It was around the time of, again, this is maybe that sweet spot in my own cinema journey, which is the late 80s into the 90s, and the early 90s, this falling into that era for me. And so I even remember the box of the VHS with the character standing there. And also this coincided somewhat with my discovery in my life of the written works of Jim Thompson. And so you combine that together. Jim Thompson works actually came, maybe I didn't read a whole lot of Jim Thompson works until a little bit later, but I started around this time. And even with Jim Thompson works, there was a lot that went way over my head when I first read them, but I kept returning to them. And among other things too, that also re-sparked my curiosity and interest in not just the works of Jim Thompson, but also the films that were adapted, or the works that were adapted into film adaptations, and one of which is The Grifters. And as an adaptation, there are so many interesting aspects to it, but or as a standalone film, it is very complex. It is very thrilling. It is intense. It is. Did I say complex? I think I said complex. It is exciting. There's that word again, but again, um, and there are so many uh, twists and trying to keep track, but it never gets lost in this or doesn't get overwhelmed by its sort of labyrinthine nature. There's always a kind of emotional core that is so resonant throughout, which makes it both very thrilling and also very memorable. I think The Grifters is one of those great. For me, it's one of those great VHS store memories from the early '90s, and that just carried on. Um, I never had it on release, much like some of these other January 2025 releases. I didn't have it on physical media release, but now that will be fixed as well because of the Criterion planned release for the 21st here. And it's purported to be based on a new 4K digital restoration approved by the director of photography, and also it looks like a number of supplements. So I don't know. I apologize for my lack of understanding of detail in terms of how this film might have been released in physical media release history prior to the planned Criterion release. I don't know about that, so I apologize for that. But um, yeah, but speaking of the film itself and my feelings about the film, I am very, very excited for this. I'm very excited for this. And it's also a chance to re-spark my enthusiasm for the works of Jim Thompson. And I mean, it's a very gritty, dark world indeed. If you head into the terrain that is the literature of Jim Thompson, and if you head into the terrain that is the film The Grifters, that too has its own set of dark turns of the corner, and that also have a sense of exhilaration, but also a sense of the darkness of the promise. So I am very excited. I'm so sorry for the repetition of that word, but I'm very thrilled. Can I say that as well? For this, the Stephen Frears work, The Grifters, and as I say, this looks to be having the 4K plus Blu-ray 2-disc release, or the 1-disc Blu-ray release. I don't see any indication of a DVD release, but that's okay. It would have been nice to have, but that's okay. But we have this. Oh, and I should note too, yes, our dear friend Sister Hyde with the great cover art. Very cool cover art. I love it. So anyway, this is scheduled for release for spine number 1246 for January 21st, 2025. The film by Stephen Frears, directed by Stephen Frears, which is The Grifters. Okay, last but certainly not least, scheduled for release January 28th, 2025. And this is also for a 4K plus Blu-ray release, or Blu-ray standalone release. And this is for a film, for spy number 1248. This is for a film which is described as being from the year 1950, and the name of the filmmaker is Anthony Mann. And the name of the work is Winchester 73. Okay, so Winchester 73, Anthony Mann, Winchester 73, starring James Stewart, which is again here purported to be based on what is described as a new 4K digital restoration undertaken by Universal Pictures in collaboration with the Film Foundation, with uncompressed monaural soundtrack. I've seen this film a lot. I haven't seen this film in this new 4K digital restoration, so I look forward to what that has to offer. Hopefully it's good. We shall see in terms of the presentation, quality, contours, and details. But just talking about my feelings or impressions of the film Winchester 73, this is, I mean, there's a lot, very rightfully so, that is mentioned in terms of the great performances by James Stewart over the years, working with many celebrated filmmakers and artists. One of which is, or one of those collaborations that is oft cited, is his work with the director Anthony Mann. And among those great collaborations, we have Winchester 73, which is, it is tour de force James Stewart. It is a tour de force Western. It is tough. It is complex. It is dark. It is heavy. It is brilliant. One of my favorite Anthony Mann works, one of my favorite James Stewart films, period. And this now coming to, or re-emerging, I mean, there have been a number, I think, of releases, but now that we have Criterion providing in January this, again, described as a new 4K digital restoration, this is very exciting, very, very exciting indeed. If for anything, for the ability to rewatch and celebrate once again the greatness of this work, Winchester 73. I can't. Oh, gosh, am I going to use that word again? Exciting. This is. I mean, this. There's so much, and I'm thinking about it now, and I'm trying to hold back because I don't want to spoil a lot of the riches and the surprises of this film for people who are going to be watching this for the first time. And if you are, this is, you have a lot in store. You gotta. I can't wait to hear your reactions when you watch this for the first time, my dear friends. But Winchester 73, there are a lot of things about it that are, let me just say, very, very heavy, and also very thrilling and very thought-provoking, and very multi-layered with the great performances, James Stewart, Shelley Winters, etc. And also, there are many parallels. I mean, you could have a lot of fun trying to match this in terms of double features with other films. I mean, I'd like to think maybe there's talk about Kurosawa films earlier in this discussion with some of his works from the 1960s, but I'd like to think that maybe you could watch Winchester 73 with a film by Kurosawa earlier in his career called Stray Dog in English, for instance, or maybe even L'Argent, the French film by Robert Bresson, as an example. But in any event, Winchester 73, this is there's a lot about sort of morality and responsibility, and also kind of the push and pull. So it's treading the lines, if you will, of a kind of American Western cinema aesthetic on the one hand, but really asking a lot of compelling questions, which I think the great films, the great Western films, but the great films overall, they pose, and they really have a sense of resonance and recoil throughout the years, which makes Winchester 73, I think, to my mind, as I say, one of my favorite Anthony Mann films, one of my favorite James Stewart films ever. So I like this film very much, very, very much. And if it weren't enough, if Criterion was already releasing these other titles that we were talking about early in this video, but now it had to cap it off with this release of Winchester 73. I don't know what to say except, oh my gosh. And I'm going to have to resist the temptation of my very, very bad James Stewart impression. I apologize. Please, please, I have offended your eyes and your ears, my dear friends. And for those who have suffered through my James Stewart impression, I apologize. But I will resist the temptation. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. Maybe just a little bit. So I apologize. If you don't like it, you can give me a thumbs down on the video. But I apologize. So we have Winchester 73 coming to the Criterion Collection. That's very, very exciting news. I'm excited. I hope you are too. Anyway, I'm so sorry about this. So Winchester 73, my dear friends, one of my favorite James Stewart films ever. Compelling film directed by Anthony Mann. It's coming to the Criterion Collection. Again, described as a new 4K digital restoration with a number of supplements to boot. Let's go. You know, right? These releases can't come soon enough, in my mind. This is thrilling news indeed. So, well done. Scheduled for release January 28th, 2025 for spine number 1248. And this is the film Winchester 73. All right, so I think according to the website, that is what we have to look forward to in January. So we have a lot of the 4K options afoot. Now, looks like, again, the 4K option is being made available for all of the releases here, most of which, or all except one, are going to be new releases in the collection. So that's very exciting. So we have the 4K format being made available with the example of Yojimbo Sanjuro, that 2-disc set already existing as a Blu-ray set. It's a great Blu-ray set, by the way, or a collection of the 2 titles individually, gathered as one release. But that is also being made available in the upcoming 4K offering. So we have 4K releases across the board with the noted detail of the DVD format being made available for the John Eustache film. So while it's nice to see the DVD format being made available, on the one hand, it would have been nice to have seen the DVD format also get some attention with some of these other releases. But oh well. I can perhaps, on the one hand, I can understand, or I can probably ascertain, hazard a guess as to why that might be the case. But that being said, it would always be nice to see the DVD format alive and well to the extent possible. But we also have the Blu-ray format, and then also we have the 4K format going forward. So for those who might be interested in the Blu-rays, that's still your option for these releases. Or if you're going to opt for the 4K, please, of course, keep that in mind as well. And we have, January. The first release is going to be January 7th, so we don't have any New Year's Day release, January 1st. So there's going to be a little bit of time between the start of the year and the first Criterion release, unless, of course, Criterion comes up with a release in that interim period. I'm not sure, but which could always be possible. I'm not sure, but as of right now, in terms of the Criterion Collection website, this is what we have. But you don't see me complaining. On the contrary, the Criterion collection has a great way of doing this, especially with the Janus Contemporaries releases. I don't talk about the Janus Contemporary release plans, although you always go back to the site and you see that, they're going to release Janus Contemporaries title, they insert them in there and to the website like so. So it's always nice to go back and see what the Janus Contemporaries lineup might look like in January and beyond. So there might be some new titles there. So always look back to the website to see what might be in store in terms of the Janus Contemporaries titles. For example, I think one of the most intriguing and exciting ones is the Hamaguchi film in English, which is called Evil Does Not Exist, which I think is going to be for December. So that's also very exciting. It just appeared in the website. So that's an example of the kind of surprises that Criterion and Janus Contemporaries might have in store for us in January. So this might not be the end of the story in terms of releases in January, but even if it were the end of the story, what a story that is being told, because I think the strength of these releases is, again, shout from the rooftops excitement. That's for sure. And, please pardon me for my maybe ill-advised repetition of the word excitement in all of its forms, but I hope you can understand, because this is this is really incredible news, I think, on all fronts. Now, I don't know what the 4K restorations will have in store for these releases respectively, so that also will be part of the conversation. But that's okay. That's going to always be a part of the conversation, and let's welcome that when it arrives. And alongside that, or parallel to that, we have, again, the ability to re-examine or celebrate or re-celebrate or discover for the first time, or maybe rediscover, as the case may be, these titles. Already a lot of my childhood memories are being rekindled just by mentioning a number of these titles. The Richard Pryor film I mentioned, I haven't seen in such a long time. The Grifters, this was back in the day when the VHS era and that 80s, 90s part of my young cinema journey. That was a big deal. And then Winchester 73, one of my all-time favorite James Stewart films. And then, of course, the huge news of the Eustache work, which has been, I think, really difficult to watch or difficult to access. Not impossible, but really difficult until now. So that'll be re-emerging or emerging as part of the conversation writ large. And my goodness, what a conversation that has the potential of being. So that's the Eustache film. And then Yojimbo and Sanjuro, two films in the Kurosawa canon which mean the world to me. These films mean so much to me. And let me just end. I apologize for this, but let me just end with maybe a personal note, maybe more personal than as is customary. But when I was very young when I saw Yojimbo for the first time in my life, but I was maybe in my early teenage years, maybe a little bit younger. I forget exactly. I mentioned it somewhere in a different video on YouTube on this channel, but it was around that part of my life, and it was a period in my life where I was also I was feeling very sad and very morose and very confused about who I was and who I am, and my interactions with people, my ability or inability, as it were, to make friends, and just trying to figure out a lot of things in my life, as I know often is the case, for pre-teen and teenage years. So I would say that therefore it was around this time that I came across the VHS tape of Yojimbo, and it was also a time which was, now I look back on it, it almost it was like a salvation in a way. It really saved me in a way, because it really shone a light for me in terms of a film. It was a film from Japan from the 1960s. It was a film that my parents knew to a certain degree, and they knew the stars, they knew the actors who appeared in this film. So it was also another point of conversation I could have with my parents as well, which is also very important. And they could then bestow upon me their knowledge, who these people were, who these actors were: Toshiro Mifune, Daisuke Kato, Tatsuya Nakadai, etc. So that also was creating more conversations that I could have with my parents and vice versa. So that was also great. It was also a great connection point in terms of discovery of Kurosawa films, discovery of this world of 1960s Japanese cinema, and also just sparked my interest in other Kurosawa films that were available at the time. And this also meant that I could now have the urge to rent Sanjuro or rent Rashomon, or seek out Seven Samurai, or seek out Throne of Blood, etc. And the rest, as they say, is history. So I'm so grateful to be able to have discovered Yojimbo, and then sometime later, soon afterwards, Sanjuro. I discovered these films at a fairly early age. I can't claim to have understood every single point of the film when I first saw it back in the day, pre-teen or teenage years. But I can say that it came at a very important time, and it helped me through a lot, both sort of directly and also in tangent. And it was a way for me to hook on to a kind of a new beat of interest in my life that, as I say, was not just fuel and sustenance for what I call, and I look back now as being a kind of cinema journey for me, but it was a lifeline that I think back on it now was so important, perhaps more important than I might have realized at the time. And so it's a film that I hold very near and dear to my heart, and it's also one of the reasons why I hold Kurosawa films near and dear to my heart. There are some, I mean, there are some films that I think, in terms of how they impact me, the story, etc., the films themselves, my subjective take. There's some films in the Kurosawa canon that I respond to more than others. I definitely admit that. That being said, just on this gut level, intimate, personal level, on a lifeline level, I could say that Sanjuro and Yojimbo, and in particular Yojimbo, this is not just an important film for me in terms of my own cinema journey. It's a lifeline film for me, and for that I will be forever grateful. Now I watch it, and there's some things that I respond to. I think about this aspect or that aspect of the film in terms of filmmaking prowess. There are still aspects of the film Yojimbo that go way over my head. And so I still have to struggle to try to keep up with the story. That could be a failing of mine. That could be maybe an imperfection in the film. Who knows? So I acknowledge those possibilities. But that's also part of the grandness and greatness and excitement of the conversation. And that still means that spark of excitement and interest is ever present. And I think maybe had I not been able to discover work like Yojimbo at that time in my life, who knows where I would be right now? I don't know. Maybe I'd be in a completely different place. Who knows? So sorry for the extended comment here, but I just wanted to say that it really is not just a really important film for me. It's not just one of my favorite films by Kurosawa on a personal subjective level, on a gut feeling level, and also on a filmmaking prowess level. It's also a film that is truly and dearly a lifeline film for me. So any opportunity to be able to watch it again, I welcome with open arms. And that will include also at the close of this video. So I will maybe go and rewatch this right now or in the coming days. Yojimbo and Sanjuro. So sorry for that long-winded way of closing. I apologize. I guess I'm always long-winded, but that's okay. Let me end once again with, Daisuke, you're always long-winded. Oh, should sit down and watch a movie. Let's do that. All right, my dear friends. I think I will do that. And once again, please let me know your thoughts and comments below about this planned releases for January 2025. I hope you're willing to do that. You can share with me if you like them, you don't like them, you love them, you loathe them, whatever the case may be. I don't mind because your feelings and reactions are very, very important to me. They always have been, and they always will be. So however you feel, it's important because they are your feelings and your thoughts and comments. So if I can still receive such comments from you, I consider that to be a place where I'm very, very grateful indeed for your kindness and input, as always, my dear friends. So please, the comment section is open, so please let me know at any time. All right, so let me end it there. So until we see each other again, please continue to be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great movies, including films in the Criterion Collection and films outside of the Criterion Collection, films wherever you can catch up with them, wherever you can find them, and beyond. So until the next video, my dear friends, stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.